On behalf of the Fijian Accountants and as the president, I have got my members here, some past presidents. So on behalf of the members, I would like to thank you, your team, and the government of Fiji for putting such a bold budget out with good incentives. And we know, I mean, everyone might have their own views, but at the end of the day, we should look at things in totality and things that will work out for the nation. So, I mean, on behalf of my members, I would like to really thank for the great budget. I would not want to repeat all the initiatives that has been mentioned by the minister yesterday in this afternoon, but just to name a few initiatives such as abolishment of stamp duties, taking away the service turnover tax, reduction of ECAL, no more requirement to have business licenses, extended social welfare arrangements in place for to cover the poor and needy will go a long way in terms of getting back to road for recovery. With other many broadband incentives available for other sectors, I believe onus is for the private sectors to take advantage of this initiative and measures available and propel the economy forward. Again, on behalf of the Institute and its members, I would like to thank you and your team for taking our time to go through our submissions, our submission that we have made, and putting in place some of the very good measures that were suggested. We commend this budget and look forward to work towards the road for recovery for Fiji. Thank you.
In fact, we just take 2 points from what the President of FIA said. In our discussions, when we're talking about working with the FCEF, Fiji Chamber of Commerce, and also the Institute of Accountants, what I suggested to the FIA was, because we're asking FIA to help us with the assessment of the applications of those people who applied. I made a suggestion. I think this is the time for people to think outside the box. If the FIA, for example, I assume you have something like getting points every year to get a renewal of certificates. I'm not sure. Lawyers most certainly have to do that. You have to what we call continuing legal education. If the accountants had something similar to that, and they treated working in these types of associations where you or initiatives as part of getting those points. For example, in Australia we have legal aid officers. If you as a lawyer went and spent an X number of hours a month or a year, you'd get certain number of points accredited towards your whatever FIA issues, the certificate to practice. You could make a huge shift. You could make a huge change. And ultimately, actually, it's for your benefit too. Because if you have more people empowered with the ability to, draw a better cash flow, be able to draw a business plan, and you're helping them to do that, you get more people participating in that economic space, more people doing well, and actually creating clients for yourselves, ultimately. So, if you can think outside the box and do that. The second point I'd like to make in respect of what you said, and I cannot overemphasize this. You'll see a lot of initiatives, tax incentives we've given, indeed rebates for construction in Fiji. And we think that we can have a bounce back, in the construction space. The cost of construction in Fiji today is lower than what it was during the boom time, in particular post-Winston. We had tenders being put in for things that were actually priced by the QSs at $2 million. Contractors were all coming at $4.5 million because there's so much work around. Now the cost of a construction has actually gone down. It's a good time to build. We've given various incentives, in fact, very generous incentives. I met with just a few days ago before the budget with a supermarket chain. They want to build a massive and modern day warehouse in one of the areas in the Western Division. In the supply chain, doing some manufacturing for their supermarket there. Food production, and building this massive warehouse. They want to take advantage of it. And what we have said now is announced in the budget, should you be interested in one of those type of investments where you get a FRCS incentive, we will actually come and hold your hand directly and take you through that. As also announced in the budget, some of what we call ready to shovel projects, government projects, we're funding. There are certain buildings that we are funding, we are fast tracking it, because we need that money to churn in the economy. And construction is one of the best ways. I mean, I'm not in qualified economists, but the economists will tell you, in the Great Depression, the Keynesian economics was government pumps in money into the economy, your Sydney Harbour Bridge gets built, a lot of people get employed, and you have infrastructure to show for it. Obviously, we aren't in the 1930s anymore. So we are obviously trying to use the private sector in a creative way for them to get into that space. So we have said, if government wants, for example, we need some office space in Lautoka. And if we call for tenders for private sector, you put up a building for us, you get various rebates, and then when you actually rent that space to us, we agreed in a rent, commercial terms, whatever rental income you get is tax exempt. So that way, you know, there are some businesses that are cashed up, there are some businesses that have foresight. We want them to actually do the investments now. That creates obviously a lot of economic leverage.